You have many times, unfortunately, we have people who say something which makes you despair. The classic, unfortunate example is that of doctors and nurses who feel they have to give the bad news. They have to give the bad news. And by giving the bad news, it makes higher the chances of death and destruction than if they were not even open, they wouldn't even open their mouth in the first place to mention the bad news. No one has the right to give you information which is fatal. A doctor, for example, his mission is called a rofeh in Hebrew, right? Verapo yerapeh. The job of a doctor is to heal, nothing else. What that means is no bad news. As long as there is a ray of hope, he has to go with that attitude. Not allowed to scare anybody. Let them come to their conclusions, the conclusions negative, if they have to on their own. But I have to do my part, if I'm a doctor, to only give words of hope. This happens many times. I've seen it in life also, where sometimes a doctor or nurse says, well, it can be, for example, fatal cancer, terminal cancer, could be that. And by just telling that to the person who's already sick, already in pain, they just add the worry to destroy the person and just to complete the job, God forbid. The worrying, unfortunately, is what gets to the person to finish their life off more than the sickness themselves. If they were sick but had a happy attitude, a positive attitude, they stand better chances, number one, of living and possibly even getting out of the sickness. But it's the worry implanted by people which causes fatal and negative thoughts and attitudes that literally destroy a person. And this comes to show you again this point, that if anybody, whether it's a doctor, a lawyer, a teacher, a therapist, they give you negative news, you have the right not to listen to them. You have the right to believe that this is totally false. Because if Hashem sends your way information which breaks you, right, you can assume that it's not from Hashem and that it's from the Yetzer Hara. It's very far that I'm saying this, but this is the truth. You can see in life how this happens again and again. An example just happened recently is a nurse told an elderly woman that she might have on her legs gangrene. Gangrene, which means that the legs have to be cut off. And the woman started to fret and panic, and she called all of her relatives, and they all started to cry with her and everything. And luckily she had one son who didn't pay attention at all to what the nurse suggested and went positive. Let's do proper tests, let's see what doctors and stuff and normal people say. In the end, it was not gangrene. But all the worry caused by the nurse was totally damaging and unnecessary. Unnecessary damage was caused to this elderly lady, Baruch Hashem. She went out of that. But just to show you that sometimes you can say something, a person can say something negative, and that negative information can cause them damage. We have to be very positive in the outlook. And now, both ways. If I am the one receiving the bad news, I have to be strong and firm to realize that this is not the real truth. Because the real truth is only good. Hashem is only good. You know, when you see people, God forbid, dying and they died out of sickness, no families crying and everything, you can assume that that was an outcome of negative attitudes beforehand, which led them to the dead end situation, God forbid. Whereas, if they held on to positive attitudes, and that there's hope, and that only Hashem decides in the end to cut, to make the final line, only Hashem, no person, no doctor, no lawyer, no king, no teacher, no rabbi can give you information that can break you. Only Hashem is the one allowed to do that. If you have that attitude, you can go through anything in life and not be afraid of anybody. Like the Baal Shem Tov was told by his father when he was 4 years old. He said, I'm going to give you a rule in life before I leave. The rule in life is, don't be afraid of anyone or anything except for Hashem. If you have that in your pocket, then you can make it B'ezrat Hashem. Through thick and thin, through any test. Any test.